Hey guys, welcome back. The title of this video is going to be Grow Your Family or Your Money. Grow your family or your money. Okay, now there's a small window in time in our lives where we have the opportunity to grow our family, right? And when is that window? Typically, it's from the ages of 20 and 30s. In your 20s and 30s, you have that opportunity, right? A little bit in your 40s too, right? We can have kids in our 40s, but typically it's in our 20s and 30s, those 2 decades of time, right? So it's a big decision, and there's no right or wrong answer to this question, right? It's a tough one. You know, it's gonna depend on probably a lot of factors, right? Can you find someone, a partner to have a child with in your 20s, right? That's going to be a huge factor right off the bat, right? It may take you 10 years to figure out the right partner, right? So, this video may not be relevant for everyone out there, but, it's some information, and information is good, right? Now, if you are able to find a partner in your 20s, you now have an option. You have an option to decide if you want to have kids in your 20s and 30s. And what you're going to have to do is weigh the pros and the cons. And there's pros and cons to both sides. So I think I'm going to take an approach of taking the pros to having kids in your 20s, okay? I kind of boiled it down to 3 core reasons. The first one is probably the most important one of all, is you have the opportunity to get pregnant you have more opportunities to do so. You start in your 20s, the odds of you having a kid are that much higher. That's the bottom line. That's the biggest advantage to starting in your 20s. You have more opportunities to make it happen, right? Number 2, you're gonna have, got some ice here, sorry about that. Where was I? The number 2 advantage to doing this is your age. You're younger and you have more energy to spend time with your kids. You're able to get on the floor, be active with your kids. That's a huge advantage, to be honest. So that's the second advantage. The third advantage is if you want to have more than 2 kids, you probably should start before you're 30. If you want to have 4, 5 kids, you're going to have that opportunity, right? You want to have as many opportunities as you can to have kids. So that's another advantage to starting early, is you can have more of them, right? Now, it used to be said years ago that you would want to have children early so that you could have grandkids and great grandkids, right? It used to be that way. You'd start having kids early and your kids would have kids early and you'd see the next generation and the next generation after that. Well, I don't believe that's the case anymore, unfortunately. Our society has now gotten to a point, and this isn't a doom and gloom video, but our society has gotten to a point where it's very difficult now financially to make that happen, to have children in your 20s. It can be done, don't get me wrong. For the most of us, it's just going to be really hard to do so, right? And it's maybe, I guess you could say, it's harder to find a partner in your 20s these days. I don't know about that, but I've heard that, right? So, that notion of having kids earlier so that you can see your grandkids may not be the case, okay? So I'm going to take the flip side of the coin on this question and talk about the advantages to having children in your 30s, okay? Now, obviously, the first advantage is you get the compound growth on your money in your 20s if you're smart. You got to be smart and you got to save your money. 10% is what I recommend, and invest it. And that way you get 40 years of compound growth. Okay, that's one advantage. Compound growth, that's the biggest one to grow your money, okay? Number two, you get more time to build your career and to build up a high level of income if you don't have one coming out of college or starting out being 20. You have the ability in your 20s to grow your career and get a high income, right? So that's a second advantage. A third advantage, which is a huge one as well, you mature. You grow up in your 20s. You get mature and hopefully you learn some patience, because children need parents that have patience, all right? And one thing to note about that is when you have maturity and patience, you're able to educate your children for this world in 10 to 20 years. It's gonna be a harder world in 10 to 20 years. You're gonna need more skills than probably what you need today, right? So there's a third big advantage, is you have the maturity to educate your children, okay? Now, whichever way you decide to go is up to you. There's no right or wrong answer to this question. Now, some people, they kind of take the sweet spot, in my opinion. They take the sweet spot of, right at like maybe between 28 and 32. They get that sweet spot where, maybe they're ready by that time. They've built their career up and they can do it, and maybe they've gotten that maturity, okay? I had kids when I was 34 and 38. I had 2 children. That's your typical American family. And I'm very happy with it. We're happy, we're very mature, we're very patient with our children, and we educate our children. We try our best. I mean, kids don't always listen to half the stuff you say. That's why I'm doing this YouTube channel, right? But, I think that maturity is a big reason a lot of people forget about. And here's another advantage too, is that when you're in your 30s and you've grown your income and you have children, you can still invest money because hopefully you've made some smart decisions in your 20s and you know what you're doing, saving your money, So you're able to do both typically, okay? Now there's some disadvantages to when you wait to 30 is, you lose a little bit of energy. Let's put it that way, right? The nights are gonna be a little harder than when you're in your 20s, right? You're gonna be a little more tired with your kids when you wanna play. They wanna play on the floor for a number of years. So you're gonna have to get down on your knees and it might hurt, right? So those are some disadvantages. But going back to, that notion of generational wealth, and hopefully you'll see grandkids and great-grandkids. Coming back to that, here's a huge advantage. When you're in your 30s, if you have kids in your 30s, and you're doing the right things with your money, you can bootstrap your children in their 20s, and that might help them have grandkids sooner, right? Maybe they'll have grandkids in their maybe mid-20s, or that sweet spot between 29 and 30. That's a huge important factor to growing your family, okay? If you have kids in your 20s and you don't bootstrap them, they may never have kids and you might not get grandkids. I hope that's not the case. I really want to promote family is a huge wealth builder. It really is, I hope that everyone can have grandkids and their kids can have kids and so on and so forth, I don't know, maybe I'm getting a little philosophical here, but family's super important. I know I talk a lot about money and finances, but in this world, in 20 years, what's the average price of a house going to be? You're going to need to work hard to bootstrap your kids so that they want to have kids. You don't want to leave them with debt, So I think that's pretty important consideration these days. But again, it can still be done. You can still have kids in your 20s. You can make it happen. You just got to be disciplined and smart with your money. That's the key. And if you have a lot of money, if you if you meet someone in your 20s, you've got a really high income and you want to have kids, go for it. You can probably do both. You can save, invest, and still raise kids in your 20s, right? So yeah, it varies across the board. You know, everyone's gonna have a different opinion on it, but these are just some tips of the pros and cons that I was thinking about when, you know, questioning whether you wanna grow your family or grow your money. That's what it comes down to. So if you guys could, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys could, take a look at my previous video. And everyone, have a great day. Thanks. Bye.